Whenever I struggle to get the right things done, I go back to the 4 quadrants of productivity. So let me explain what this means. So my friends, here are the boxes of productivity. So let's see what's inside number 1. What do we have here? Here we have important and urgent, and that means solving crises and putting out fires. So this can basically mean something that really needs to be done right now. So let's say your car breaks down and you use that every day to go to work. That becomes a quadrant 1 problem. You need to fix it right now because you need the car tomorrow for work. It can also be health related issues, like you need to go to the hospital or fix something with your health. Or if you have a business, maybe your system breaks down in your company, or you find a big problem with an employee that you need to solve right away. That is quadrant 1. Quadrant 2. Let's see what we have inside here. It's like Christmas. So here we find things that are important but not urgent. This can mean prevention, exercise, inventing, prospecting, studying, paying down debt if you have, and your monthly investment plan. And this, my friends, is the most important box of them all. We want to spend a lot of our time doing these things because they have a great return on investment. So number 3. Let's see what we have in this box. Here, my friends, are things that are not important but feel urgent. That means a person who is very impulse driven. They might feel that their own ideas are the best all the time. They need to impress others, shallow goals to impress others. They buy now but pay later, and this results in consumer debt. This is a very common style of leadership and management, but we want to try to get away from this behavior because it's very stressful. So if we spend a lot of time just to impress others or appear in a certain way, that is time that we could have been spending in quadrant 2 that would have a much higher return on investment. Micromanagement also belongs in this box. The boss who gives one task, but then they want to really micromanage how each detail of that task is done and not trusting the employee to actually do the job. So, number 4, let's see what we have in this box. Here we have not important and not urgent. So here we find scrolling on social media, watching endless series like binge watching series and movies, too much rest and procrastination. And I think most people can understand that this is not a good place to be. This is not good activities and productive activities to be involved in. So we want to spend less time here and we want to spend more time in quadrant 2 because that has the highest return on investment. So we will all be spending time in these different quadrants at different times in life. For example, I'm quite good at spending time in quadrant 2 when it comes to work and studying. And my girlfriend, she's fantastic at spending time in quadrant 2 when it comes to free time and planning family gatherings and what we should do in our free time and weekends. So how do these quadrants relate to money? Let's investigate this. So quadrant 1, here we will get an equal return of what we put in. So every person will have crises that they need to solve from time to time, and we should solve them as fast as possible because then they don't grow. We should solve problems while they are small and get them done. Quadrant 2, this is where we get most return for our invested time. Here we get most bang for the buck, highest return on investment. We should spend as much time here as possible. For example, if we invest in our own education, that enables us to increase our salary or how much we charge in our company. That has an enormous return on investment during our lifetime. That is an activity that belongs in quadrant 2. Taking care of our health, doing exercise that makes us happy and that makes us healthy, that belongs in quadrant 2. If you read the book The Millionaire Next Door, they made one research that was quite interesting, that millionaires, they tended to spend 1 hour each day on exercise, while people who were not millionaires, they spend less time exercising. So exercise makes us more productive and happy, and it should be in quadrant 2. Quadrant 3, the not important but urgent. This has a very little return on investment. This actually gives less back than what you invested. This could mean the person who spends 8 hours a day in the gym to look really incredible just to appear good to the opposite sex, for example, when they could have spent that time working, building a business, or spending time with their family, for example. This could also mean if you spend a lot of time learning something just to impress others, just to appear in a certain way. That also belongs in quadrant 3. And it would be much smarter to spend that time learning something that has actual real value to you. For example, me, in my 20s, I spent a lot of time learning a specific guitar technique that looked very cool. And I did that only to impress people around me. So that was a waste of time. I should have spent that time learning something really valuable instead. Quadrant 4, not urgent, not important. And here we don't get any return on investment at all. If we binge watch series or scroll hours on social media, that are activities that don't give anything back to us, and we just feel drained and tired and depressed when spending time there. And if you have those emotions and feel stuck and feel really bad, check yourself if you are currently doing activities from quadrant 4, because if you would instead stop that and spend time in quadrant 2, probably those feelings would stop. You will feel much better. Then some people might say, but I'm so tired after work, I need to do something to relax. Yeah, but maybe then if you would go out for a walk instead of scrolling on your phone, that would be a better way of relaxing, or spending time with your family rather than just watching a series. So that is an example how you could limit time in quadrant 4 and spend more time in quadrant 2. So now we understand that we should be spending more time in quadrant 2 and less in the other ones. And in order to do that, it can be easy if we identify what are those activities that we should be doing. What are the quadrant 2 activities for us at the moment? For me, creating educational videos like this belong in quadrant 2. A big one that I had before was studying Charlie Munger, a person that I really look up to. Serving customers and students, a really important one, delighting my customers. And going to the gym or taking bike rides. That is something that is great for productivity and for health. And one thing that I've been doing lately is really seeing what is the difference between some activities from quadrant 3 and quadrant 2. Because sometimes when I've thought I was in quadrant 2, I was actually in quadrant 3. Like the example that I said before, learning this specific guitar technique in my 20s. It felt really good learning and I felt like I was in quadrant 2, but it was actually only to impress others. Another trap for people who are self-employed or have their own business can be that they each day ask themselves, what do I feel like doing right now? And that can really put us in quadrant 3, because then we might do easy things rather than the important things. And we start avoiding the important things that we should be doing. And that really puts us more in quadrant 3 rather than in quadrant 2. And quadrant 4, it's easy to say that we know that we should not be spending time there. But sometimes we find ourselves there anyway, because those things today are so easily available. Social media, checking your email, watching endless series or movies, these things. Everything is available in our phone. So when is it that we end up in quadrant 4, and what can we do to prevent that? So for example, for me, I tend to end up in quadrant 4 if I have not planned my free time and I'm currently not with my girlfriend. So for me, a remedy for this could be to have piles of books on subjects that I want to study, because that makes it easier for me to reach for a book rather than my phone when I'm having my free time. And I also need to become good at planning fun events in my free time that I can look forward to. For example, buying food, bringing to my family, sharing that with them. That's a great way to share my free time. And that can really create energy that I can bring with me for the whole week. And one way that has helped me to spend more time in quadrant 2 throughout the day has been to create a rhythm of different activities throughout the day. For example, if I block out time in my calendar for different activities throughout the day, that really suits my personal style. That really helps me. So the ideal rhythm for me is to wake up and get out on my bike or do some type of exercise in the morning, or get out in nature to have that fresh start in the day. Then I really like spending some hours in deep work in some creative project like writing, creating these videos, or some type of really deep work where I am not interrupted, just focusing on one thing. Then in the afternoon, that's perfect for me to take care of customers, serving them. Evenings I find is great for reading something that don't get the mind going too much. It could be learning a language or reading biographies, for example. Finding my own natural productive rhythm has really helped me to spend more time in Quadrant 2. Maybe it looks totally different for you, but I can really encourage you to try that for yourself. Great hanging out as always. If you have a friend or coworker who need to spend more time in Quadrant 2, becoming more productive, send them this video. So have a great week and see you soon.